Hey everybody, welcome back to PolitiBrawl reaction videos. I'm your girl Olivia Rondo, and today we got Sebastian Gorka eviscerating Politico on their own stage this past week. Let's get into it.
A member of Al-Qaeda. If you're a member of Al-Qaeda, you're a terrorist.
How do you know if they're members of these gangs? What I'm saying
is... You mean
is,
the tattoos, MS-13 on their knuckles doesn't, that doesn't help it? Do you have tattoos of Al-Qaeda?
The tattoo did not say MS-13.
Wrist?
I don't want to get into that.
Oh, of course it does. It's just accidents that the four symbols represent the letters MS. See, this is why Politico is a joke. This is why you are gutter press and fake news. That those four symbols that just happen to comport with the letters MS and the numbers 13 don't, in this case, represent MS-13. You're sitting here live defending a member of MS-13. That's why I regret coming here, because this isn't journalism, this is protecting those who hate America. Shame on you. We are saving lives. Sir. Saving lives. How about Maryland fathers compared to Maryland mothers? Like Rachel Marin, mother of 5, raped and murdered and thrown in a ditch. How about Jocelyn Nungare, age 12, raped a mile from her home and thrown in a ditch? It's strange that Politico doesn't do articles about her, that mother, or that 12-year-old girl. Why is that? Why is the MS-13 guy with the knuckle tattoos more important in terms of due process than the lives of 12-year-old girls brutally raped? It's weird that the priorities shift to defending the member of an FTO, but not the children and the women. Dan Crenshaw told me a story once of a 16-year-old girl who was smuggled across this border. The parents paid $5,000 for her to live in America, the land of milk and honey. She ended up locked in a room in New York, raped by more than a dozen men every day for 18 months until she escaped. She went to Dan Crenshaw's office, and I'm no friend of Dan Crenshaw's, okay? He's still got TDS. And that girl said to him, please close the border so another girl doesn't have to be raped by 12 strange men every day for 18 months. It's strange that Politico doesn't cover those stories. Could you tell me why?
We have covered.
No, you haven't. You have not covered those stories. I'd like to see the Jocelyn Nungare, Rachel Marin stories in comparison to the Russia collusion garbage. I mean, let's be honest here.
Let's move on.
You have an agenda.
Let's move on, because he just totally blew you guys out of the water, totally destroyed your whole publication, your whole career. And I'm sorry, I actually am not super against Dasha Burns. I've seen some of her work before, and I don't think she's the worst journalist ever as far as mainstream media goes. But first of all, let me just say, Sebastian Gorka, if you guys don't know, he's a deputy assistant to the president. He's a senior director for counterterrorism on the National Security Council. He knows what he's talking about here. And he's also not even originally from America, as you can tell by his accent. He's British, Hungarian, American. I believe he has multiple nationalities, but he's obviously very loyal to America. And these are the type of legal immigrants that we need, guys. Ones that are going to speak out against illegal immigration. And I cannot believe we're still on this Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Maryland man, Maryland father stuff, when, as Gorka pointed out, as Trump has pointed out, as ICE has pointed out, as the Department of Homeland Security has pointed out, his knuckle tattoos correspond. His knuckle tattoos have symbols, marijuana leaves and skulls, that correspond with MS-13 tattoos. I'm not an expert on MS-13 tattoos. What I do know is that, you know, even when our government admitted that he was mistakenly deported to CSOT, the terrorism confinement unit in El Salvador, under a deal with Nayib Bukele, the federal government, our federal government, admitted that we mistakenly put him there, but he was 100% deportable and removable, just withholding to El Salvador, because he was able to convince an immigration judge that he would be persecuted by Barrio 18, which is another violent gang from El Salvador that is rival gangs with MS-13. So I'm not saying that everybody who is worried about being, you know, hurt or killed by an MS-13 rival gang is part of MS-13, but it's just highly convenient that he happens to have gang tattoos or tattoos affiliated with gangs that could be MS-13, and he fears Barrio 18, which again is a rival gang in El Salvador. And the fact that, you know, DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin already announced that he was arrested with 2 other confirmed members of MS-13 and he was arrested, taken into custody earlier this month or earlier this year before he was deported in March, with rolls of cash and drugs. You know, none of these things are I guess damning, I would say, and 100% positive that he is like a ringleader MS-13. But a lot of things point to him being affiliated with MS-13, not to mention the fact that he was pulled over in 2022 by Tennessee State Patrol with 8 other people in his car, none of whom spoke English, all of whom gave his Maryland residence as their home address, and he also pretended to not speak English during that traffic stop as well. So it seems like he was kind of human smuggling, moving people across the border. He was also accused of domestic violence by his wife, who's an American citizen, in 2021, when she took out a order of protection against him. So the fact that we're sitting here still to this day, months later, talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia as he sits in CSOT, where he belongs, in my opinion, it's just crazy. I mean, he's not a citizen. I don't care that I don't care. He didn't come into this country and give us due process on the way in. Why should we give him due process on the way out? That's just how I feel about it. And I just love that Gorka brought up Rachel Morin, who was also from Maryland, or she actually is from Maryland. She's not an illegal immigrant. She was a Maryland mother of 5, I believe. Regular woman in her 30s, out on a hiking trail, and was unfortunately raped and bludgeoned to death by an illegal Salvadoran immigrant who was a confirmed member of MS-13. And he was just convicted a couple months ago, not too long ago at all, actually. And Jocelyn Nungare, she was a little girl from Texas. She was very young. She was like 12 or 13 years old, left her mother's apartment to go to a corner store, and was lured away by 2, you guessed it, illegal migrants who sexually assaulted and murdered her and left her desecrated body on the side of the road in kind of a creek bed underneath of a bridge. Left her to be found by an unsuspecting commuter the next morning. And, you know, she was like 13 years old. It's not about hatred, to me at least. It's not about hating people from other countries, hating immigrants. Sebastian Gorka is obviously an immigrant. It's about vetting the people that we let come into this country, because our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, any woman you know, and men as well, are becoming victimized by people who, quite frankly, should not be in this country and shouldn't even be free. Like, in their home countries, they are considered criminals. In El Salvador, these people would be locked up. Nayib Bukele would have these people locked up if you dare have a gang tattoo in El Salvador. So, I mean, I do think Gorka makes great points. Why isn't Politico focusing on that instead of trying to shame conservatives and trying to shame the whole like due process thing? Kilmar didn't get due process. I don't care. I don't care, because guess who else didn't get due process? Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungare, you know, countless other victims of illegal migrant crime. Not to mention that the Rachel Morin murder was years ago at this point. It was a few years ago. Her killer was just convicted this year, but Rachel Morin was killed years ago. Her mother, Patty Morin, has still not heard from our senator. I'm from Maryland as well. Our Senator Chris Van Hollen, who took the time out of his job that his constituents elected him to do in Washington, D.C. and in Maryland to fly to El Salvador, and he admitted it was on taxpayer dollars, flew to El Salvador to meet with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the alleged MS-13 gang member and domestic abuser and human smuggler, but still hasn't met with Patty Morin, whose Maryland resident daughter was killed in the state by an illegal migrant. These people just don't care. The media doesn't care. And when I say media, I mean mainstream media outlets like Politico, like CNN, like MSNBC. They hate Americans, and they want to shame us for pointing out this stuff. I mean, they're sitting here, like Gorka said, you're sitting here live defending a member of MS-13. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you report after that. And I'm glad, I know he said he regrets going to the Politico event last week, but I'm glad that he did, because he exposed them for what they really are, which are propagandists. I can't believe he called their outlet gutter right to her face like that, but good on you, Sebastian. I 100% agree with everything. And I don't 100% agree with everything he's ever said. And I 100% agree with everything he just said right there. And I do think it's funny that he brought up Dan Crenshaw, because Dan Crenshaw totally has TDS still to this day. But whatever anecdotal story that Crenshaw told him, that actually made me pretty emotional to hear about that too. And it's far, unfortunately, that young woman's story who told Dan Crenshaw that she had been raped multiple times for 18 months before she was escaped after she was smuggled across the border. Unfortunately, that happens every day. And it's 100% the Biden administration's fault for letting the border be wide open. Now we've gone to from 100,000 border encounters to 20 under Trump. It's an insane difference. So members of the Trump administration, including Gorka, if you see this, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for eviscerating Politico on their own stage. And yeah, I want to know what you guys think. Let me know. How do you think Politico has been doing covering the administration news thus far? How do you think Gorka did in responding to Dasha Burns here? And yeah, write a comment below. Please like, share, and subscribe to PolitiBrawl, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.